Hi folks, how you doing? It's James, JT, at the movies, and I'm back here today for what is going to be our latest instalment of the Debriefing 007 series, where we talk about 1974's The Man with the Golden Gun. So apologies, there's been a bit of a delay on this video coming out. I had a few things happen in my personal life recently, which warranted my attention, and has meant that I've not been able to make as many videos as I'd have liked. But enough about that. Let's jump into this film. So this is Roger Moore's second appearance as James Bond 007. It's also the last film that Harry Saltzman would produce as an Eon Bond partner. He would actually have to sell his rights to Cubby Broccoli after this film to get himself out of some serious financial trouble. But we'll talk about that when we come to the next film. Following the success of Roger Moore's first appearance as James Bond in the year previous as Live and Let Die, the studio wanted to get straight into making the next Bond film and immediately began production on The Man with the Golden Gun. This film predominantly takes place out in Asia, citing Hong Kong and Thailand as its main shooting locations. And it's a really great film. I've always had a great time with this one. It quite often comes out the bottom end of a lot of Bond rankings. And I can see why, because there are some moments in it where you think, not really sure why they made that particular choice, and that the plot is a bit by the numbers, but I have always had a really great time with it. So there's a world energy crisis on, and Bond is currently assigned to recover the device known as the Solex Agitator, and this is a device that can convert the energy from the sun into usable energy down here on Earth and would considerably help resolve the energy crisis, basically. So of course the British government want to get their hands on that device, and they have been speaking with the inventor of that device, but he's gone to ground and Bond's looking for him. Is where we start off with this film. MI6 then receive a threat from Francisco Scaramanga, the man with the golden gun, by way of a golden bullet with 007 engraved on the side of it. Bond thinks nothing of this at first, but M, worried for Bond's safety in jeopardising such an important mission as recovering the Solex, relieves Bond of his duty and temporarily suspends him until such a time as the Scaramanga issue can be resolved. In only a way that James Bond can, especially Roger Moore's James Bond, Bond asks if he could find Scaramanga first and deal with that situation, would M then be able to reinstate him and let him get back to work, basically. M agrees to this, and Bond, realising that a fellow colleague of his, 002, had been killed by the man with the golden gun some years previously, decides to go and investigate where 002 was killed. And he knows that he was killed whilst he was having an intimate moment with a belly dancer. Bond tracks down the belly dancer and finds out that she's actually wearing the bullet that killed his colleague as a piece of jewellery now. After a commotion ensues with some goons in the club, Bond manages to retrieve the bullet piece of jewellery that the dancer had been wearing. He's able to compare that then with the piece that's been sent to him. Q is then able to determine that they've been made by renowned gunmaker and ammunition supplier Mr. Lazar. Bond goes to interrogate Mr. Lazar, and after an amusing confrontation between the two chaps, Lazar gives in and lets Bond know that he's got a delivery ready to go to Mr. Scaramanga. Bond then decides that he's going to follow the order, which is picked up by Miss Anders. She's played by Maud Adams, who I'm sure Bond fans will know. She played the title role in the 1983 film Octopussy, and is one of the few people to make a reoccurring appearance in a James Bond film, but as a different character. Anyway, back to the plot. Bond then decides that he's going to interrogate Miss Anders, and it's there that he learns that actually Scaramanga doesn't have a contract on him at all, but in fact she'd sent the bullet because she wanted Bond to execute Scaramanga so that she could escape essentially her imprisonment with Scaramanga, as she no longer wants to be in the relationship with him, but knows that breaking it off with him will mean that she is killed. With the information that Ms. Anders gives Bond, he then goes to the next location where Scaramanga is set to be with a view to meeting him. It's there that Bond learns that the solar energy crisis and Scaramanga are actually a lot more closely linked than he might have initially thought. Scaramanga has been hired by Chinese businessman Haifat to kill the inventor of the Solex, who was supposed to be meeting up with an agent to turn over the Solex device to the British government. The inventor is assassinated by Scaramanga, and before the Hong Kong police can intervene, Inspector Hip, who's one of Bond's allies, though we don't quite know that yet, brings Bond in to get him away from the scene. They then regroup at M's office on the wreck of the Queen Elizabeth ship that was in the Hong Kong harbour at the time, and it's there that they decide that they're going to work together to investigate Haifat. Bond decides that he's going to impersonate Scaramanga to go and see Haifat, as he believes that the pair will have never actually met face to face before, to give Haifat some plausible deniability should the operation go south, as it were. Haifat meets up with Bond posing as Scaramanga and plays along so that Bond thinks that he's won, but it actually turns out that Haifat and Scaramanga have been working closely together and do have a face-to-face relationship. Bond, again as Scaramanga, is invited back to Haifat's residence for dinner later that evening, but it's there he's ambushed by some goons and then sent off in a ridiculous sequence to a ninja training school. This series really loves putting Bond in ninja training school, doesn't it? Bond, again with some help of Lieutenant Hip and his nieces, manages to escape. It's there that we get a cameo appearance, or what should be a cameo appearance, from J.W. Pepper, who's on holiday. Bond later agrees with Ms. Anders that if she can get the Solex from Scaramanga, that he will take care of Scaramanga for her and ensure that she is kept safe. They arrange a meeting place at a wrestling match, and when Bond gets there, he finds that Ms. Anders is dead, and sat behind him is none other than Scaramanga. Scaramanga introduces himself to Bond and says that he personally has no grievance with Bond, and that if this is their only meeting, that he'll happily be on his way and leave him alone. Bond manages to find the Solex and actually gives it to Mary Goodnight, who notices that there's a strange situation going on between Bond and Scaramanga, and so she then goes to put a tracking device on Scaramanga's car. Scaramanga, who's now left Bond and is heading back to his car, sees this and, along with his aide Knick-Knack, pushes Mary Goodnight into the boot and locks her in. Bond gives chase in a car that he steals from a showroom that J.W. Pepper is actually just about to take for a test drive, and chases them following the signal. It's there that we get one of the best stunts of the whole series, where Bond and Pepper drive the car over the broken bridge and do the sort of the flip where the slide whistle does the and it lands on the other side. You know the one that I'm talking about. Unfortunately, Scaramanga's car also is able to quite quickly adapt into a small plane. They take off, and Bond unfortunately has to sort of regroup and sort of rethink his plan of attack. With a little bit of help from Q, they're able to track down Scaramanga's location, and Bond, flying in a small plane under the radar, flies into Scaramanga's private islands in the oceans just off the coast of China. It's actually filmed, I think, in Thailand, is that? But in the plot of the film, I think it's meant to be off the coast of China. Bond arrives at the island and is welcomed as a distinguished guest by Scaramanga. The pair of them have dinner, but the conversation soon turns to business, and then Scaramanga ends up inviting Bond for a duel of the ages, as it were. Initially, they're about to have a traditional duel on the beach, but Scaramanga then lures James Bond into his funhouse, as he likes to call it. We've seen the funhouse in the pre-title sequence of this film, where Scaramanga actually goes up against one of the goons from Slumber Inc. in Diamonds Are Forever, a nice bit of continuity to link the series there. Bond is able to outwit Scaramanga by actually posing as a mannequin of himself that Scaramanga has in the funhouse. When Scaramanga walks past what he believes to be the mannequin, Bond is then able to take that fatal shot and make sure that Scaramanga is no more. After a brief and amusing confrontation with Knick-Knack, Bond and Goodnight are then able to sail away in Scaramanga's yacht, whilst M is trying to call them on the phone for a debrief. And that's pretty much the film. Like I say, this film's pretty much a by-the-numbers Bond film, really. To quote Calvin Dyson, the the renowned Bond YouTuber, as he were. It's a Sunday afternoon Bond film. It's one you can put on without giving too much thought to, and just sit back, put a cuppa on and enjoy it. It's not one of the best. It's not one of the worst. It's in that sort of middle ground. I do really enjoy it though, and always have done. I thought that it was one of Roger Moore's stronger performances as Bond, and I didn't particularly like the bit where he's interrogating Miss Anders, and he goes a bit more Sean Connery, and sort of does the whole, I'll break your arm if you don't tell me what you're doing. That doesn't really fit in with Roger Moore's performance and portrayal as James Bond to my mind. And I know Roger Moore had said later on in interviews that wasn't one of his favourite scenes. He also doesn't like the scene, or didn't like the scene, God rest him, where he kicks the assassin off the cliff in For Your Eyes Only. I personally love that one though. I think that's really in keeping. But yeah, The Man with the Golden Gun. Roger Moore is fantastic as James Bond. Britt Eklund plays a good leading lady. If she's a little bit annoying at times, well, it's sort of made up for the fact that she sort of plays well off Bond, I would say, and works well as part of the story. It kind of needed the whole sort of damsel in distress sort of type character in this particular story. Christopher Lee is absolutely fantastic as the villain. He is by far the best thing in this film as Scaramanga. It's just a shame that he potentially couldn't have come back and done a sequel or something like that. He was that good. Hervé Villechaize, I do hope I've pronounced his name right, plays Scaramanga's right hand man, Nick Nack, and he's really there for sort of comedic sort of purposes, comic relief more than anything else, I would say. But what he does well. Clifton James comes back as J.W. Pepper. Even though the story requires him less than Live and Let Die would have done, I enjoy him more in this film, and I don't know why, because he's even more irritating here than he is in the first one. I don't know whether it's because maybe I enjoy this film a little bit more than Live and Let Die, but he really shouldn't be here. The MI6 regulars, MQ, and then we've got Moneypenny, and then Lieutenant Hip as well. All the allies are absolutely fantastic, and Maud Adams is great in her very, very brief appearance as Miss Anders. I really, really love this film. It's one that I do come back to fairly regularly, and I would recommend watching it if you've not seen it. I'm going to give this film a 7 out of 10. So there you have it, folks. That is my thoughts, my ramblings, if you will, on the 9th 007 film from 1974, The Man with the Golden Gun. If you've liked this video, and you like videos talking about the James Bond movies, collecting physical media, movie reviews, top 10 lists, unboxings, that sort of thing, consider subscribing to my channel, because that's what I'm all about. And as we go further into 2021, that's the sort of content that I aim to bring you. If you do subscribe, make sure you ring that notification bell, and that way you're the first person to know whenever I do post a video. Above all else, folks, take care of yourselves, continue to stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you again in this series for my review of The Spy Who Loved Me. Take care.